The sun was setting over the majestic Nile River, casting golden hues across the ancient temples, pyramids, and sacred land. But as the sky darkened, a different kind of light began to emerge. It wasn't the light of the sun, but the glow of something far older, far deeper, far more powerful. It was the light of the gods, the eternal deities who shaped the lives of the ancient Egyptians. The gods were not mere stories or abstract concepts for the people of Egypt, they were living, breathing forces that guided everything from the pharaoh's rule to the harvests of the land. At the heart of the Egyptian worldview was the belief that everything in the universe was connected through divine forces. The gods represented natural phenomena, life, death, rebirth, creation, and destruction, and their presence was woven into the very fabric of Egyptian existence. Each god embodied a force of nature or an essential concept, and the Egyptians believed their actions could either bring harmony or chaos to the world. From the majestic Ra, whose sun illuminated the heavens, to the mysterious Anubis, who guarded the afterlife, these deities played an active role in the daily lives of all Egyptians, not just the rulers. The ancient Egyptians had an almost intimate relationship with their gods. Temples were not just places of worship, but spaces where the gods were believed to actually reside. Rituals, ceremonies, and prayers were not performed merely as offerings, but as acts that ensured the balance of Ma'at, the cosmic order that governed the universe. The gods were not abstract, they were felt, seen, and experienced in every aspect of life. As the Nile flowed, so did the influence of these deities, touching every soul and every corner of the ancient world. But as we delve into the mythos of Egypt, we'll discover that the gods were not always benevolent. They were complex, multifaceted, and at times, even vengeful. The relationships between the gods were often filled with power struggles, betrayals, and wars, stories that mirror the very human struggles of life. Yet, amidst these challenges, there remained a deep understanding that the gods held the ultimate power to shape the fate of humanity. This cosmic tension is where the true magic of Egyptian spirituality lies. The first rays of the morning sun weren't just signs of a new day for the Egyptians. They were a sacred manifestation of Ra, the supreme sun god, whose light brought life, order, and vitality to the world. Ra wasn't only the embodiment of the sun but also the creator of all life. Every dawn was a reminder that the universe's balance hinged on his eternal journey across the sky. Behind this radiant figure lay a story of divine power and cosmic struggle. Ra was often depicted with the head of a falcon, crowned with the solar disk and the uraeus, a serpent symbolizing divine kingship. His daily journey was a journey of creation, beginning at dawn when he rose in the east, crossing the heavens with the power to provide warmth and life, before descending into the underworld at night to battle the forces of darkness and chaos. In his nightly struggle, Ra was aided by his daughters Ma'at, the goddess of truth, and Hathor, the goddess of love and joy. Ra's journey mirrored the cyclical nature of the world itself: birth, life, death, and rebirth. Even in death, Ra's journey continued, reinforcing the idea of a never-ending cycle of creation and renewal. Ra's connection to the pharaohs makes his influence even more fascinating. The Egyptian rulers were considered the living embodiment of Ra on earth, the son of Ra. The pharaoh's divine authority came from Ra, and it was through the pharaoh that order was maintained in Egypt. The bond between Ra and the pharaoh was sacred. When a new pharaoh took the throne, he was seen as Ra's earthly representative, carrying out divine will. This belief linked the king's destiny directly to Ra's reign over the heavens. The people saw the pharaoh as a living god, the mediator between the divine and mortal realms. Ra's power went beyond kingship and the sun. His influence permeated all aspects of Egyptian life. He was invoked in daily prayers, rituals, and even in activities like harvests and the construction of monuments. Egyptians believed Ra's radiance was the source of all wisdom, fertility, and prosperity. The grand temples dedicated to him, such as the ones in Heliopolis, became spiritual centers of great significance. The priests who tended to these sacred spaces were the spiritual authorities of Egyptian society, reinforcing Ra's far-reaching influence. Ra's legacy continues to this day, in the sun that rises every morning. To modern spiritual seekers, Ra embodies the life force that sustains us all. In a world full of shadows, Ra's ever-burning light remains a symbol of hope, vitality, and renewal. The ancient Egyptians understood that life was in constant flux, but Ra's endless journey across the sky reassured them that the sun would always rise again, no matter how dark the night seemed. As the sun set over the Nile, darkness brought with it the quiet of the underworld, a realm ruled by one of Egypt's most important deities, Osiris. While Ra's light reigned over the heavens, Osiris governed the mysteries of death, rebirth, and the eternal soul. His influence on Egyptian life was profound, especially in the context of the afterlife. Osiris wasn't just a god of death, he symbolized hope, renewal, and the promise of life after death. His story, however, was marked by betrayal, tragedy, and, ultimately, resurrection. Osiris is often depicted as a mummified figure, holding the crook and flail, symbols of kingship. According to myth, Osiris was once a great king, loved by his people, bringing prosperity to Egypt. But his younger brother, Set, god of chaos and disorder, coveted Osiris's throne. In an act of treachery, Set trapped Osiris in a coffin and cast it into the Nile, where it was carried away and came to rest in a tree. Set's jealousy led to the betrayal that shattered Osiris's reign. But Osiris's death did not mean the end. His wife, Isis, and sister Nephthys searched tirelessly for his body. When they found it, Isis used her divine magic to resurrect Osiris long enough to conceive a son, Horus, who would avenge his father's death. Osiris's resurrection symbolized the hope of eternal life, not only for the gods but for humans as well. Those who lived justly and followed Ma'at, the principles of truth, justice, and cosmic order, could look forward to rebirth in the afterlife, just as Osiris was reborn. The myth of Osiris became central to Egyptian religious thought, deeply influencing how Egyptians viewed death. The weighing of the heart ceremony, which determined a soul's worthiness to enter the afterlife, was modeled after Osiris's judgment. When a person died, their soul was believed to journey to the Hall of Judgment, where their heart was weighed against the feather of Ma'at. If the heart was lighter than the feather, the person could join Osiris in Aru, a paradise where the soul would live forever. This belief system created a moral framework in Egyptian society, where individuals sought to live righteous lives to achieve rebirth as Osiris had. Osiris's legacy is not one of mere death, but of life and renewal. His rule in the afterlife assured the Egyptians that death wasn't an end but a transformation into a new existence. Through Osiris, they understood that death was a natural part of life, but it was not final. Instead, it marked a transition to a continued existence under Osiris's protection. This belief in eternal life was as essential to Egyptian spirituality as Ra's eternal journey across the sky, providing comfort and purpose as they faced mortality. As the skies above Egypt darkened, the fierce cry of a falcon pierced the air, an embodiment of Horus, the god of kingship, protection, and victory. While Osiris represented death and resurrection, Horus personified the power of life, rulership, and divine justice. He was not merely a god of war but also the protector of pharaohs, the god who ensured the safety of the kingdom and the stability of the state. Horus's mythology is marked by both tragedy and triumph, embodying the eternal struggle between order and chaos. Horus is often depicted as a young man with the head of a falcon, symbolizing his dominion over the sky and his association with the sun. According to Egyptian mythology, Horus was the son of Osiris and Isis. After the murder of his father by his brother Set, Horus sought to avenge Osiris's death and claim the throne that had been usurped. This battle between Horus and Set was not just a personal vendetta, it represented the cosmic struggle between order, Horus, and chaos, Set. Horus's triumph over Set was symbolic of the restoration of Ma'at, the cosmic balance and harmony that the ancient Egyptians believed to be the foundation of the universe. Horus's victory marked the beginning of a new era for Egypt, where the divine order was restored, and the rightful ruler was placed on the throne. The pharaohs, as the earthly representatives of Horus, took on the responsibility of upholding Ma'at. This divine connection between Horus and the ruler emphasized the sacred duty of the pharaoh to protect and govern the land justly. The falcon-headed god was not only seen as a protector of the nation but also as a symbol of the strength and resilience needed to overcome any adversity. The significance of Horus extended beyond the battlefield. He was invoked in rituals for protection, healing, and prosperity. It was believed that Horus's divine power could shield individuals from harm and guide them through life's challenges. The Eye of Horus, a powerful symbol often associated with protection and good health, became a staple of Egyptian amulets, offering spiritual security to its wearer. The symbol of Horus's eye was also linked to wisdom and insight, reflecting the god's role as a bringer of clarity and understanding in times of darkness. Horus's legacy as the protector of Egypt and its rulers is felt even in modern times. The idea of divine kingship and the responsibility of rulers to maintain order, justice, and balance continues to resonate in various cultures, particularly in African traditions that emphasize the connection between leaders and the divine. Horus represents the ideal of a just and powerful leader who not only defends his people but also embodies the cosmic principles that govern the world. His enduring influence on Egyptian society left a profound mark on the spiritual and political fabric of the nation, creating a model of kingship that transcended the bounds of time and continues to echo through history. In the silence of the night, as the stars twinkled overhead and the Nile flowed with its eternal rhythm, Anubis, the god of mummification and the guardian of the underworld, stood watch. Anubis's role was deeply tied to the crucial transition between life and death. He ensured that souls could safely navigate the perilous journey to the afterlife. Unlike many gods, Anubis did not represent a force of creation or destruction, but rather one of protection, guidance, and order in the face of the unknown. His influence was felt at the most sacred moment of an individual's life, the moment of their death. Anubis is most often depicted with the head of a jackal or dog, animals that were commonly associated with burial grounds and the protection of tombs. His appearance was a reminder that he was the god who ensured the safe passage of the deceased. In the mythological narrative, Anubis was said to have assisted Isis in mummifying her husband Osiris after his death, thus creating the sacred art of mummification. This act granted Osiris his resurrection and eternal life, making Anubis both a protector and a healer of the soul, responsible for preserving the body for its journey to the afterlife. As the god of mummification, Anubis held great responsibility. The Egyptians believed that for the soul to continue its journey after death, the body had to be preserved. Anubis's role in overseeing the embalming process was vital, as it ensured that the physical form would be protected against decay. This belief was not merely ritualistic but connected to the larger spiritual understanding that the soul needed a physical vessel to return to in the afterlife. Anubis's protection of the body symbolized his role as the guardian of both physical and spiritual existence. But Anubis's power wasn't confined to just the preservation of the dead. He was also the god responsible for overseeing the weighing of the heart ceremony, a critical event in the journey of the soul. In this ceremony, the deceased's heart was weighed against the feather of Ma'at, representing truth and balance. If the heart was found to be light, the soul was granted passage into the afterlife. If it was heavy with wrongdoing, the soul was devoured by the fearsome beast Ammit. As the guide to the underworld, Anubis was seen as the one who determined the soul's fate, ensuring that only those who had lived justly would be allowed to join Osiris in the afterlife. The role of Anubis extended far beyond death. He represented the enduring balance between the world of the living and the dead. His influence continues in various spiritual practices, particularly in African traditions that emphasize the protection of the spirit after death. Anubis's vigilance and care for the deceased symbolized the reverence the Egyptians held for their ancestors and the belief in a life beyond the physical realm. His legacy remains a symbol of the respect for life's transition, the protection of the soul, and the vital. The gods of Egypt were not distant, detached beings residing in the heavens. They were deeply embedded in the everyday lives of the people. From the grand ceremonies performed by the pharaoh to the simple offerings made by common citizens, the divine presence of the gods shaped Egyptian rituals, cultural practices, and even their worldview. These rituals were designed to maintain Ma'at, the cosmic order that governed the universe, and they involved gods in nearly every aspect of life, from birth to death, and everything in between. One of the most profound ways the gods influenced Egyptian culture was through the practice of temple rituals. The temples, sacred spaces dedicated to specific gods, were the centers of religious life. Here, priests performed daily rites to honor the gods, ensuring their favor and the continued prosperity of the land. Each temple had its own unique rituals, but they shared common elements. Offerings of food, incense, and precious materials were made to the gods, alongside hymns and prayers. It was believed that by performing these rituals with precision and devotion, the priests could ensure that the gods' power flowed into the world, protecting Egypt from chaos and ensuring its well-being. Among the most important rituals was the opening of the mouth ceremony, a crucial rite that allowed the deceased to breathe, eat, and speak in the afterlife. This ritual, often performed on mummies or statues, was a symbolic act of resurrection. The priests would use sacred tools to touch the mouth of the deceased, enabling them to receive sustenance and participate in the divine world of the gods. This act reflected the Egyptians' deep belief in the interconnectedness between the living, the dead, and the divine. Another key aspect of Egyptian culture influenced by the gods was the festival calendar. Egyptians celebrated numerous festivals throughout the year in honor of different deities. These festivals often included music, dancing, and grand feasts, with the god statues being carried in processions to their temples or other sacred spaces. For example, the Opet festival, which honored Ammonius Ra, featured elaborate rituals and celebrations to reaffirm the divine connection between the pharaoh and the gods. These festivals were not merely celebratory, they were a way of ensuring divine favor, prosperity, and the continuation of Ma'at in Egyptian society. But perhaps the most important aspect of these rituals was their link to the pharaoh, who was seen as the living representative of the gods on earth. The pharaoh's role was to maintain Ma'at and serve as an intermediary between the divine and human realms. Each action the pharaoh took, whether in war, governance, or even in daily life, was seen as a direct reflection of the will of the gods. The relationship between the ruler and the divine was vital in ensuring that Egypt thrived. Without this connection, it was believed that chaos would ensue, and Egypt would fall into disarray. These deeply spiritual rituals were more than just religious acts, they were the backbone of Egyptian society. The gods shaped the way people viewed their existence, their purpose, and their ultimate fate. Through these rituals and festivals, the Egyptians acknowledged their dependence on the divine and reinforced the sacred balance that kept their world intact. Today, the lasting influence of these rituals can still be seen in modern African spiritual practices, where respect for ancestors, rituals of honoring the gods, and the belief in the interconnectedness of the spiritual and physical worlds continue to play a significant role in daily life. The gods of ancient Egypt didn't just disappear with the fall of the civilization, their influence is woven into the spiritual fabric of Africa, and their legacy continues to resonate in many modern African spiritual practices. The ancient Egyptian belief system, focused on the divine order, the afterlife, and the relationship between the gods and humans, has had a profound impact on various African traditions that still honor these gods in different forms today. The gods of Egypt, such as Ra, Osiris, Horus, and Anubis, continue to shape concepts of leadership, morality, death, and spiritual renewal throughout the continent. One of the most significant ways these gods live on is through the enduring respect for ancestors and divine rulers. In many African cultures, the concept of divine kingship and the ruler's connection to the gods remains central. Much like the Egyptian pharaohs, contemporary African leaders are often seen as intermediaries between the divine and the people, their authority stemming from a sacred connection to higher powers. The spiritual bond between the ruler and the divine is a reflection of the relationship between Horus and the pharaoh, and it underscores the importance of justice, balance, and harmony in leadership. Just as Horus represented the king's divine protector, many African cultures honor spiritual figures who embody similar attributes of guidance, strength, and divine authority. The concept of the afterlife, so central to Egyptian spirituality, also continues to influence African religious thought. The idea of an eternal soul that must be guided through a moral and righteous life to achieve a favorable afterlife is prevalent in many African traditions. Rituals for the dead, similar to the Egyptian weighing of the heart, are a common practice, with ancestors' spirits being honored and offerings being made to ensure their peace and favor. The soul's journey after death, as guided by Anubis and Osiris, parallels African beliefs in the guidance and protection of ancestors who help ensure a harmonious existence in both the spiritual and earthly realms. The importance of balance, as embodied by the Egyptian gods, has also influenced African spiritual practices. The Egyptian concept of Ma'at, the divine principle of truth, balance, and justice, is reflected in the African emphasis on moral uprightness and living in accordance with divine principles. In numerous African spiritual systems, there is a belief in cosmic balance, where maintaining harmony in the natural and spiritual world ensures prosperity and peace. This reverence for balance aligns closely with the ideals held by Ra, the god of the sun and order, whose influence continues to be felt in African traditions that stress living in harmony with nature and the forces of the universe. Furthermore, the imagery of gods like Ra and Horus, with their powerful symbolism of the sun, light, and protection, has carried over into modern African art, spirituality, and community life. Their symbols are incorporated into art, amulets, and even everyday objects used to channel divine energy and protection. The Eye of Horus, for example, is still widely used as a symbol of protection, health, and wisdom in many African cultures, and it has become an iconic motif in the spiritual practices of various African communities. The gods of Egypt are not relics of a distant past, they remain alive in the hearts and practices of modern African spirituality. From the veneration of ancestors to the reverence for divine leadership, the influence of Egypt's gods is undeniable. These deities, once worshipped along the banks of the Nile, continue to provide a sense of connection to the divine and to the eternal truths that guide human existence. Through these spiritual practices, the legacy of Egypt's gods endures, reminding us of the timeless relationship between humanity and the divine. The gods of ancient Egypt continue to shape spiritual practices today, offering timeless lessons on life, death, and balance. If you found this journey through Egyptian mythology fascinating, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating stories from the past. Join us as we explore the rich tapestry of history and spirituality.